I went into like a deep depression. It was like I was walking around with a dark cloud over my head. I started getting into selling drugs. During that time, I wasn't going to God. I wasn't even thinking about God. One day, she just cooked up an edible, her first one ever. I take it, I try it. The day's going by smooth. I'm chilling, and then it hits me. I start feeling anxious, like my heart start beating fast. I'm in and out of consciousness, and then boom, I just black out. And she was praying over me. I just heard him saying, like, in Jesus' name, protect this young man. I can't doubt that God working in my life when he brought me through so much before. My name's Cordell. I'm 23 years old, and I would say I've been a complete follower of Christ for about like 3 years now, where I completely gave Jesus my life and allowed him to take control over it. So I wasn't raised in a two-parent household, but my mom and my sister's dad did raise me to about like second grade, up until the point of him leaving and them getting a divorce. But I've never met my real dad up until recently, and I'll get into that later. But I never met my real dad. I probably talked to him once, and it was a brief convo, barely seen his face. I didn't know his name for the longest time. And it was my sister's dad did a great job with pouring into me a little bit. He wasn't perfect, but nobody is. So, I can appreciate him for what he did. But I really do give all the credit towards my mom, my grandma, and my granddad. We went to church and a couple of times, but it kind of fiddled out over the years and we just stopped going. Fast forward to like around 4th grade, something had happened with my mom to the point where I had to go live with my grandma in 5th grade. And my grandma was the one who really poured into me the foundations of God and who Jesus was, and just that lifestyle in general. So moving in with my grandma around 5th grade, I started going to church more. We went often. My grandma, she was a part of the church. I can't remember what she was. I don't know if she was a pastor or what she did, but she played like a huge role to the point where we traveled to like different churches, and she helped handle a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff. She spoke from time to time. My granddad, he played the piano, so we were involved in church a lot. I played the drums, and my cousin played the drums. So we was there in and out. I knew who God was, and I've seen him work in my life around that time. Outside of living with her in 5th grade, we would go to her house for like, we call it nanny camp, but we would go and she would kind of like nurture us, and we would like, it's in the country too, so it's ducked away from the city life that we was used to, being raised in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, so it's ducked away from the city life. And we would like just, work on the lawn and do all that extra stuff. But during those instances, I really got a gist of like, okay, what church life is like, and how the Black Baptist church, the music and all that extra stuff, the food at the church and all that. So I kind of really got my church experience from my grandma, and she taught us. Like, it wasn't just we went to church and we came back home and that was it. She taught us, and taught us who was God, the difference between creating, and just making something as like us humans do. We make stuff out of what God gave us, and he's really the ultimate creator, and singing gospel songs. And so that was really where I got my foundation from. Now, experience wise, my grandma was going through a lot around that time, in terms of like dealing with land issues within her family, and family trying to take ownership of houses and lands and things of that nature. I won't go too deep into that, but her sister was a very like interesting character. Like there was times where she would like cut off the water, so we would be really like, we would kind of be struggling. We was living in a small house. It was literally like a 1-bedroom house. And me and my cousins, we slept in the living room, and there was one bathroom. She would cut off the water to the point where we had to go get a septic tank and kind of get our water from there. And then she would like mess with the lights and things of that nature. There was instances where she would like try to do voodoo. She would try to like put like dolls and bury it in the front yard, or blame us for certain things, or like, it was crazy. So, but a lot of those times, you know, my grandma, she prayed a lot, and she really kind of kept it. It's like we didn't know this. I knew this stuff was going on because I was the oldest, but it's like none of us we didn't feel the effect of it, if that makes sense. We did not feel the effect of like none of this stuff that was going on. She informed us of it, and, you know, but we just didn't feel the effect. But there was a lot of instances between that where it was a lot of spiritual battle, you know what I'm saying? Times where God saved us from the crib burning down, or instances where like, you know, dreams, you know what I'm saying, or, you know, things like that. So I wasn't really, I wasn't new to like the spiritual battles of things, but I was also young, so I couldn't grasp, you know what I'm saying, all of that type of stuff. I used to have a lot of nightmares, and I used to be so conscious in my nightmares, it was kind of scary, you know what I'm saying? Even when I was living with my mom, my nightmares were so vivid to the point where I would like, in my dreams, I would do things to try to leave my dreams. Like, I remember there'd be certain times where I don't want to be in a dream so bad, so I would consciously like run around in my dream, try to find a way to duck off and like close my eyes, and I would count down, and I would try to like forcefully open my eyes till I wake up. And you know, that happened to me a couple of times, and they was back to back to back to back to back, until, you know, eventually I just stopped kind of dreaming, and I grew up and life kind of went on at that point. And yeah, also too, my family is a very spiritual family. My great granddad was a pastor, you know, on his own church and everything. My grandma, you know, deep in the faith. My granddad, you know, he's deep in the faith. He just became a pastor. So, you know, we wasn't really, we was aware of these things. At least I was, because I was older. I knew it was a form of spiritual attack. And I truly think the enemy was trying to take me when I was a younger kid, even when like other instances that happened to me when I was younger. But also when I was younger, I can't remember around what grade, but I had an instance with a family member, a cousin, I'm not gonna say where, but I had an instance with a cousin where, you know, I had an instance with a cousin where, you know, how do I put it, bruh? I had an instance where, you know, I was taken advantage of, basically. So I was younger. I really didn't know, you know what I'm saying, what I was getting into. I didn't share this with anybody. Like, my mom doesn't know to this day. Literally only probably 3 people in the whole world know, and him. And don't know nothing to this day, not until now. You know, I was taken advantage of. It was once, and around that time, you know, around that time, you know, as a kid, you want to be involved in stuff. So I'm like, you know, I never had, like, I never really had any game systems or like games or anything like that. You know, my mom, we wasn't really poor or anything like that, but we didn't have like what the other kids had or whatever. So, you know, I went to his house and I was like, oh, you know, I want to play the game, da da da. And then, you know, he's like, oh, you know, you got to do da 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 to get on my game system. I'm like, bro, why? But as a kid and easily influenced and just, you know, I was young. I had to be like not even like 8 maybe, you know what I'm saying? Just easily influenced. And then, that happened. And afterwards, I didn't even know what to grasp from it, at that age, but I was disgusted even afterwards. And then, fast forward, time go by, and, the thoughts kind of, disappear, and I'm living life more. I'm not really thinking about it. I guess I go to like after I moved back into my crib with my mom. That was in 6th grade. We moved. We stayed in Orlando, and I started to kind of really, going through that younger phase where I'm trying to fit in, or I'm trying to obtain things that, I just didn't have. So around that time, I just started stealing. I feel like most kids, like stealing from cars, going to the store, just trying to hustle and trying to, get some money. Because my mom she was giving me stuff, but she wasn't giving me the stuff that I guess I wanted at the time. So I was jealous of the other kids. So, I stole a lot more, trying to fit in, breaking into cars, being involved with friends that I just, my mom was like, you're a better child than this. You know what I'm saying? You can't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing that. And, and that just started the snowball effect into me, being involved in that general lifestyle. 9th grade years when I had a whole different friend group, and now I'm really, in the lifestyle. I'm smoking a lot more, you know what I'm saying? I'm not really caring about school at all. Sleeping in all my classes, you know what I'm saying? My mom telling me I'm better than that, I can do better, and I need to start focusing. She doesn't know what I'm doing yet, you know what I'm saying? But she's like, why you slacking? Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Why is your grades, getting lower? And it got to a point where I got sick and tired of her hearing that. So I kind of like made it so I like changed the number at the school so the school couldn't call her if I skipped class or anything like that. So they wouldn't, they couldn't reach her. So she wouldn't have to get on me about that situation. Or like when report cards or progress reports came, I held off on showing her because I did not want to hear that. So at that point, she was completely disconnected from my school life. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know how my grades were or nothing like that. And then I started to become more independent, you know what I'm saying, in my friend groups and things of that nature. I was involved in this one friend group, and they're the ones that kind of introduced me to like, pills, oxy, and all that extra stuff. I never took it, but it was a way for me to kind of start making money, you know what I'm saying? So I started getting into selling drugs. I started selling weed for a little bit, nothing crazy, just in the school. Same with the pills and stuff like that. Started in school, and then it started to become stressful for me. You know what I'm saying? With hearing my mom and smoking all the time, while also selling, while also knowing that my grades are plummeting. It was like I was walking around with a dark cloud over my head during my high school years. I started to get into relationships, and I lost my virginity in like 9th grade to this one girl, and that relationship just became constantly just having sex all the time, to the point where it's like, what am I doing? But I still couldn't truly grasp like what I was doing, on top of everything else that I was doing. So with her, I'm like, oh, maybe, this isn't what I want. And then she started like talking to other guys, and, it kind of left me like, I was sad. She cheated on me basically, and I'm like, I don't think I want to be with you no more. And then we kind of just break off. And then I went into like a deep depression, you know what I'm saying? Listening to crazy music. Like I was listening to sad music at the time. That was around like X was out, and Lil Peep, and all the like sad, that was like the prime sad music era. And I would just listen to that music and go to sleep with it in my ears. So I was just pounding all this like depressing stuff on my life. And I'm smoking at the same time, being involved in lifestyle. My friend, finding out he just got robbed at gunpoint, you know what I'm saying? And now he's like, oh, maybe you need to get strapped up too. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm thinking about it, but I'm like, I can't bring that in my crib, even though I was bringing weed in my crib. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I can't bring that in my crib with my mama and stuff like that. But knowing that, you know what I'm saying, he got involved with that and that happened to him. Now I'm thinking like, dang, that could happen to me. So now I'm stressing about that too, while I'm stressing about my grades and stuff like that. So it's just so much piling on me. Now, while also in high school, you know what I'm saying, I'm trying to talk to other women. I'm like, bro, why can't I talk to women? So now that instance, what happened to me when I was younger as a kid, comes back to haunt me like out of the blue. Now I'm thinking like, am I straight? Do I like women? You know what I'm saying? So all of that just piled on me at once, but I wasn't truly feeling it, because of the weed that I was smoking. So I'm in class, going to sleep, grades plummeting. One day, my friend hit me up and she was like, yo, we should start selling edibles. So I'm like, okay, bet. You know how to make edibles? She like, yeah. She like, yeah, I'm just learning, da da da. So one day she just cooked up an edible, her first one ever. And I was like, oh, let me try it. So I take it, I try it, and I eat it. I ate the whole thing. And the day's going by smooth, I'm chilling. In class, eventually I'm just staring off into space, and then fast forward, I'm on the bus and then it hits me. So when it hits me, I start like kind of tweaking out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? It start hitting me heavy. I don't know what's going on. My friend that I thought was my friend started just laughing at me, you know what I'm saying, joking with me or whatever. He like, bro, you tripping, da da da. Recorded me and everything, and I still got the video on my phone. And I just was like tweaking the whole time. Then I end up getting to the crib and it felt like I couldn't control myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm walking around the crib like I'm in and out of consciousness. I threw up, you know what I'm saying? It got so bad. Like I called my mom. I was like, Mom, like I'm high right now, da 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 da. She was like, you high? What you talking about? You high? I'm like, yeah, I'm high. And she was like, what? She was like, I don't want to come. I'm at work right now, man. What you tweet? Like, what's going on? I'm like, Mom, let's come to the crib. So I hang up. I guess she was on her way, but it felt like ages. So I'm steady, like walking back and forth and in and out of consciousness. I don't know what she put or like how much she put or what strand she put, but I should never ate that. But I'm in and out of consciousness. Eventually, like it gets so bad that it felt like I like walked out of the crib, like I'm walking into people's houses and stuff like that. It was bad. So eventually I like take a lap around my whole neighborhood, end up coming back into my crib and like laying down on the ground. And mind you, this is uncontrollable. So I'm laying down on the ground and my dog is like looking me in my face, and I finally like get up and I'm like, okay, I can move a little bit, but I'm still, I'm still high a little bit. My mom ended up coming home. She called the firefighters or the ambulance or whatever, and they checked me, and then they like, he fine. He just got a lot of THC in his system or whatever. And then after that, I'm never taking edible again. But I was still smoking. I was still like skipping and hanging out with the same group or whatever. And so I'm still kind of in that depressive state. But my mom is like, yo, like, are you okay? You know what I'm saying? Do I need to get you a therapist? And I'm like, I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? She was like, but you're not talking to me. But to me, I'm like, I feel like I can't talk to you. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you're not going to understand. I find it hard talking to her. I didn't tell her about the instance where I got taken advantage of when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? I didn't tell her about nothing. And she was like, do I need to get you a therapist? Like, and I didn't answer, but she ended up getting it for me anyways. So later she was handling all that. And she ended up getting me a therapist. It was a black guy named Eno. Eno changed my life. I don't care. He changed my life for the better. I'm glad I met him. And I'm glad, we had our relationship. So I started going to Eno, and in the beginning, I'm still like Like, I don't care. Like, why do I need to be talking to you right now? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to talk to you. I feel no need to talk to you. I don't even know why my mom put me in this room right now. You know what I'm saying? He like, man, it's fine. You know, doing therapist tactics, whatever they do. He's like, man, it's fine. You know, I'll leave it to you. You talk when you want to talk. And probably like 2-3 sessions after that, I started talking. Like, I'm starting to tell him like what's going on, you know, what I'm involved with, and he's helping me. But the first instance was me dealing with getting over me getting taken advantage of when I was younger. I did not forgive that man. You know what I'm saying? I didn't forgive him at all. And I carried such a hate, you know, in my heart towards him. Like, I literally wanted him dead. You know what I'm saying? It was such a huge hatred in my heart towards him, and I didn't know why. And it was all because he was making me confused. Like, it confused me, you know what I'm saying? It confused whether or not I liked women or not. Like, I knew I liked women. I knew what I was attracted to, but it still was like, dang, do I? Or da-da-da. And then, helped me understand, like, I didn't have no control over that. You know what I'm saying? I was younger. I had no control over that. He started to tell me, like, try to forgive him. So I'm like, okay, I try to forgive him. But I didn't know how to forgive him. So I take a break. I think summertime, I go live with my grandma, and I work with my grandma, or with my uncle. And my uncle, we're at lunch one day, and my uncle's, he's praying over his food. And I'm like, when you pray over your food, what you be praying about? He was like, I just be thanking God for everything. Like, I talk to him. I take that moment to talk to him. I'm like, okay, I want to start praying I want to start praying again and praying over my food and stuff like that. So that instance, I said, every meal that I have, I'm praying over it. But instead of just praying over my food, I'm going to take that time to just talk to God about, like, everything or whatever I want to talk to him about. So I tried doing that. I come back to go to school. This has to be around, like, my sophomore, it's still in my sophomore year. I come back and I'm still hanging out with the same group. And then one day, just a random day, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the cafeteria, and the same girl that made the edibles, she just offered me like some watermelon or something like that. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take a watermelon. You know what I'm saying? So I eat it. Fast forward, I get in the auditorium. My heart started beating fast. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I start feeling anxious. Like, my heart started beating fast. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, what's going on? I can't focus right now. Everything started to feel like a blur. I start hearing just like all the voices just become like mush. Like, so I'm like, what's going on? So I go to my class. I'm like, maybe I just need to listen to music and go to sleep. Heart started beating fast again. Couldn't focus. I started getting real anxious out of the blue. Never had any anxiety issues before. Like, never. I didn't even know what anxiety was at that time. So I'm like, why am I feeling like this? So I start feeling anxious, and then I'm like, I can't handle it. It got to a point where I couldn't handle it. So my mom ends up coming to the school and checking on me, and she was like, okay, I gotta take you home. So she ended up taking me home, and I'm like, okay, I got we got some food or whatever, maybe I needed to eat. You know what I'm saying? She's like, I gotta go back to work. So I'm in the crib by myself. I couldn't sit in the crib by myself. I was getting more and more anxious. So I'm like, I can't do this. So I go knock on my neighbor's door, and I'm like, can I come in? Like, I just can't be by myself and da-da. She was like, are you okay? She was like, well, I can't let you in here because, my mom's in here. Her mom's like real old. She's like, I can't let you in here because my mom's in here and my daughter's in here. You know what I'm saying? So, but I can let you sit on the back porch. I'm like, okay. So I go sit on the back porch. It's hot outside. The sun is beaming in my face. And I'm like, I can't sit out here no more. I'm still anxious. I just can't. I'm trying to drink water, but, it wasn't hydrating me or nothing. So I'm like, well, I can't. I knock on the back door. I was like, it's too hot out here. Can I come in? She was like, okay, yeah, I'll let you in. Just sit on that chair right there. And then, yeah, and, just calm down and, you can just stay right there. So I'm sitting there. I'm calm. I'm eating my food and doing what I'm doing, and then boom, I just black out. I just black out. I don't know what happened. It was so weird. It was like I'm blacked out. I keep coming into conscious, but I'm rolling on the ground, and I'm like in and out of conscious. I'm black. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I was like screaming or whatever. Like, I just don't know, but it was bad. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if I was having an anxiety attack or whatever, but that happens. I'm in and out of consciousness, and she come in there is trying to help me. She's like, trying to pick me up off the ground and stuff. And I think eventually, I don't know when my mom came back, but my mom ended up coming back. But her and her mom ended up picking me up, and I was laying on her lap, and she was praying over me. Her mom was praying over me, and they just like did a lot of prayer. And I didn't hear specifically, but I just heard them saying like, in Jesus' name, protect this young man, and da 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 da. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So eventually they sit me on the ground, they give me ice, and my mom is there rubbing my back. And she's like, it's okay, da da da. And I'm like still coming into consciousness, still coming in there, comforting me. And then boom, I just start crying. And I start like voicing to my mom like I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make you happy, and I'm just trying to, be a good son, and I don't mean to like, do the bad things that I did, or I'm not trying to like, do this. I'm just trying to be there for you. And, I just started expressing myself to her, and, just spilling my heart out, just crying. I didn't have no control over like any of that, just happened out of the blue. And I think it's because like everything that was piled up on me, I didn't let it out at all. I didn't let it out. During that time, I wasn't going to God. I wasn't even thinking about God, when I was doing anything that I was doing. But, I did that, and we ended up recouping, taking me back to my house, laying me on the couch. I tried to eat or drink. I couldn't eat or drink anything. Every time I tried to eat something or drink something, my heart started beating fast. I started getting scared and anxious and stuff like that. And at that moment, I became bedridden for like, I had to be like 3 weeks or something like that. I couldn't move from the couch. I couldn't enter into my room. Like, I was afraid to go in my room. I was afraid to like lay in my bed. I was afraid to shower. I was afraid to eat. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't watch like certain shows. So the only thing I watched was like slice of life anime. That was the only thing I watched, because it was just calm enough for me to kind of like be like, okay, I can do this. I can watch this. And it took my mind off of certain things. I was scared to blink. Like, I was scared to close my eyes, to the point where like I would close one eye and leave the other one open so I can close both of them. Like, I was scared to like get up off of the couch, and I don't know, I was just stuck there for the longest time. I didn't do no social media. I wasn't on my phone. I was just there with just me and my thoughts, barely even my thoughts. Like, and it felt like stuff was like trying to touch me. It was so weird. Like, stuff was trying to grab me. So I'm like looking, and I'm just anxious all the time. It was weird. And I honestly think that was an attack from the devil, along with everything else that happened in my life before that point. Along with him trying to make me question my sexuality, along with him trying to let me take the path with drugs. You know what I'm saying? Thank God I didn't get into like pills or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like he was trying to get me for so long. And then even in that instance, he wanted me to quit. You know what I'm saying? He wanted me to just stay there and allow that to take control of me. They was trying to give me like antidepressants or whatever. I'm like, I don't want to take that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to take none of that. So I'm still kind of, recouping. The only thing I had was like, what did I do? I finally was able to eat. I started eating noodles, and then, I started eating like hot dogs and stuff like that. Early on in the stages, my mom actually got me like these protein shakes, which I was able to consume. So But I remember for like 3 days straight, I was starving myself. I didn't eat or drink anything to the point where I woke up, I was shaking because I was malnourished. And then, so yeah, eventually I became able to eat. And then I ended up becoming more able to kind of like move around, get in the shower, and, you know, just do certain things. But I was still on that couch. I still wasn't going to my room because I was scared. I remember one time I tried to go in my room. For some reason, I kept seeing like this black dot on my door, just like moving around, and it made me like scared of entering into there. And then I didn't even want to open my room door because from the couch, I could see into my room. I didn't even want to have that open so I can see what's in there. So eventually, you know, that happened, and then I was able to go back to school again. So at that point, I was like, I gotta change. Like something gotta change. So I stopped hanging around with all the friends that I was hanging out with before, completely cut them off, like cold turkey, stopped smoking, stopped eating sugar, stopped drinking juice, soda. The only thing I drank was water. I started cooking all my food. I became a germaphobe. I didn't like dapping people up. You know what I'm saying? I barely liked touching them. I would fist bump them. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like touching doors. You know, I didn't like being around people too much. I secluded myself. I stopped sitting with them and moved all the way across the cafeteria to sit by myself. I was by myself. It was just me and then my other girl that I was with at the time. And I forgot to bring her up too because she played a part into the stress that I was going through at the time. Our relationship was hectic, argued all the time. You know what I'm saying? She had a hectic lifestyle and it was rubbing off on me. Mind you, we was having sex at the time, so I feel like whatever she was feeling, I was feeling it. You know what I'm saying? She had issues with like her dad, you know what I'm saying, and her mom. She was in an abusive household, but I was taking all that in. Like all that was on me. You know what I'm saying? Her grandma was jealous of our relationship. I was kind of scared of her dad because he got arrested for murder. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to make you mad. And you know, so it's just a lot going on in that relationship. The freaking guys that she knew was trying to, like, not attack me, but they was trying to scare me or whatever. And I was way more like quick to jump at somebody or like, you know, be whatever. But I was still with her. And then after that whole incident, I was still with her. But during those instances, we would still argue, like, after the fact. And I would have instances where, like, I'm driving in a car and I would get stuck and I would see, like, a hearse drive by, you know, and I'm looking at it and I can't control myself and I start crying. And then I remember that had happened and she kind of jumped in the back. She was like, are you okay? You know, trying to comfort me and everything. She was a good girl, but it was just her environment. But I'll have instances like that where death tried to scare me, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't know what to do with it. So after that instance too, I went back to my therapist and I kind of was voicing everything with him, and he helped me like come up with like coping mechanisms with like controlling the anxiety or whatever. And it helped a lot, you know what I'm saying? Especially when I was back in school and I was having those issues, like I randomly get anxious and I'll have to go off by myself, or I would have to draw because I was heavily in drawing at that time. And then I was still healing. But another thing that helped me heal was like helping other people through my struggle. So this one girl was dealing with anxiety too, and I would just share the tactics that I learned from my therapist with her. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. So that started like make me kind of feel good a little bit. So as I'm changing my life, I'm getting into a routine. I'm starting to work out more, you know what I'm saying, really changing my body. And I'm like, okay, I want to start reading. So I go in my mom's not library, but she got a bookshelf in the garage. I go there and, you know, I'm reading a bunch of books on like psychology and stuff like that, trying to figure that stuff out, you know, and I'm enjoying it. I'm starting to realize like, oh, I like learning. You know what I'm saying? Before in high school, I was not learning. You know, I wasn't involved in school. I had a 1.6 GPA. You know what I'm saying? 1.6 GPA is crazy. But I was like, after that incident, I was like, I gotta change my life around. You know what I'm saying? Junior year, I was like, I gotta change. So I'm reading more, being involved more, and then while going in the through the bookshelf getting books, I come across the Bible. So now I'm grabbing, I'm like, maybe, I need to learn about God more. I'm remembering like my grandma and her teachings and stuff like that. So I'm reading more, not understanding anything. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I was like, let me start from Genesis. So I'm reading. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't understand a word. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand like no stories, no backgrounds. Especially when I got to the names part, when they started listing all those names, I was like, bro, what's going on? So, but I'm still kind of pushing through it and, reading or whatever while, doing everything else and, just bettering my health. So eventually I get to a point where like I'm able to function properly, you know what I'm saying, without being scared to blink my eyes or, being scared to move and stuff like that. And I decided to call it quits in that relationship because I realized it was taking a toll on me also, especially being involved, with sexual intercourse and things like that. So I was like, I don't want to be involved with that no more. And I'm going to my therapist and he's helping me out. He's like, yeah, make sure you pray. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if therapists are able to talk about like religion, but there was instances where he would like hint at like, oh, if you got God or da da da, and I'm like, maybe I need God. Like it wasn't necessarily faith-based, but he would like give like hints at faith, you know what I'm saying? Which helped me lean towards God a little bit more. On top of when I was with my uncle and he was like, oh, I pray over my food. I was praying over my food every day, just talking to God. You know what I'm saying? Building a relationship slowly but surely. And eventually it became habit. I prayed every day. I didn't read the Bible every day, but my prayer life was every day. I started journaling and I was like, if I'm not praying, let me journal. So I started journaling every single day. I probably got like 5 journals from my high school years all the way up to today, of me just talking to God, you know what I'm saying? Thanking him. I was like, maybe I need to become more thankful for everything. Thanking him, I'm thanking him through everything. You know what I'm saying? Thanking him for my family. I'm thanking him for the situations that I've been through, like the crazy situations, because I started to see growth. You know what I'm saying? I started to find out I love learning. I'm starting to find out, I want to get into photography, or I'm a more of a artistic type of person. You know what I'm saying? I'm starting to learn certain things about myself and I'm starting to enjoy it. There was instances where those friends tried to come back in my life, but I had no, I gave them no leeway. I walked right past them. They try to dap me up. They try to talk to me. I'm like, I don't even, bat an eye towards them. I'm starting to find better friend groups. I'm starting to be involved more. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, maybe I'm going to continue journaling. So, yeah, I keep journaling. The way I found out about journaling was through this one YouTuber I watched named Young Don the Sauce God. He was talking about it, so I was like, I want to start doing it too. And then I was kind of leaning into like the more spiritual type of aspect of things, with like affirmations and stuff like that, and the more like psychological stuff. But I don't know, I still kind of found it weird a little bit. And then my girl at the time was like more like tarot and all that extra stuff. So I'm like, okay, maybe this, but I still was like, I feel kind of icky about it. Tarot cards, yeah, I was like, I don't know about that. So I ended up breaking up with her and I'm like, I don't know, man. So eventually, our relationship ended. That's a whole another story, but our relationship ended and I ended up getting with this other girl. She was into the same thing, but my relationship with God started to grow. So through like my journaling and me talking to him on a day-to-day basis. I still truly didn't know who Jesus was and what he did for me and like, to what degree. But I knew I knew about him, you know what I'm saying? I knew he was my savior, you know what I'm saying? I knew like, oh, I gotta go to God for this. I gotta go to God for that. He's helping me through these traumas and things like that. So I was like, I'm gonna keep talking to him. And he was the only one that I had at the time. So fast forward, I end up doing better. I ended up graduating high school in 2020. My GPA, not skyrocket, but it went from a 1.6 to like a 2.5. So I was able to graduate, So yeah, after that high school, I started trying to find my purpose. And then I started working. I started wanting to compliment people more and, get involved more. And then one day God was telling me, forgive the guy that, did what he did back then. I was like, why? I still haven't completely forgiven him. He was like, do it, because, he was telling me, like, you're not the one to take revenge. I'm the one to do it for you. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let it go. And then, like, a week later, my mom called me, and she was like, yeah, so-and-so, tell me why he got arrested. I'm like, he got arrested for what? And then she was like, for doing some crazy stuff, him and his brother, sadly. I still pray for his brother to this day, because I know he went through what I went through times 10. He had to have, his younger brother. But she was like, yeah, he got arrested and I'm like, dang, that's crazy. And it's crazy because why did my mom call me and tell me that? She don't know what happened to me. You know what I'm saying? So at that point I was like, okay, God, he's listening to me. So I forgave him, and that was, after I forgave him, it was easy for me to forgive whoever else. I started to forgive the girl who gave me that edible and put me down that path. You know what I'm saying? I started going through a list of people. I texted my ex on New Year's and I was like, just to apologize for what I've done and to say, like, we good, we cool, no bad blood or anything like that. I started to forgive people. One person it was hard to forgive was my dad, because I was like, because my dad wasn't in my life, bro, I done had all this stuff happen to me. You know what I'm saying? I had nobody to go to. So I was like, dang, man, I don't care about him. I don't care to meet him or whatever. I don't care to, like, see him or whatever. And eventually I kind of forgot about that. But eventually I started to, get into stuff, and then I was better, started working more, then I started editing. And I started editing for the guy that I learned journaling from, Young Don the Sauce God. And he wasn't really in his faith at the time, but when I was editing for him, he started getting into his faith because he was married. And then during that instance, he was like, yo, how about you come move to Houston? Mind you, I'm like 19, 20. I'm like, move to Houston? I live in freaking Charlotte, North Carolina with my mama. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big move. I'm gonna leave everybody I know. But something in me was like, make that move. So I did it. I flew out there to find apartments or whatever and came back. And I didn't let my mom know until a week before I was moving. She was sad, but I knew I had to, because, like, if I told her beforehand, she was gonna try to convince me to stay home. So I was like, nah, I can't do that. So I ended up moving to Houston to an apartment by myself at 20, at 20 years old. And it was a little tough in the beginning. I was working, making good money. Eventually the money started to lessen a little bit, and I'm trying to find a car. I had sold my car. I didn't have no car at the time. I didn't know how apartments worked or anything like that, trying to figure out light bill situations and all that extra stuff. But it was smooth though, I was living in my own crib. I was enjoying it. Eventually, he started getting into the faith, the guy that I worked for, and with him being an online image, he started to pick up that teaching role on accident. So it started to become a lot on him. With me editing his videos, I started to learn a lot about the faith that I just didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I started to hear different perspectives, different, like, ideas people had, different beliefs people had, free grace and all that extra stuff. And, hearing all the debates with, like, Christian YouTubers, like Ruslan and all them. So I'm hearing all these debates, him debating with Muslims, and, I'm hearing all these perspectives. But I knew where my faith stand, and I knew what I believed in. Around this time, I knew Jesus, he died for me. I knew about, a lot of things, and I kind of was firm in that. So what he believed in really didn't shape me, but I was still being informed of these things, throughout this time. So while going through these things, I'm like, dang, I gotta read for myself, because I can't let this dude, shape my view on my faith. You know what I'm saying? So I'm reading the Bible more. I'm starting to understand it, through the Holy Spirit. I think the Holy Spirit was taking his time on me, genuinely taking his time on me. And, you know, I'm starting to understand a little bit more. I'm starting to read a little bit more fluently, you know what I'm saying, and genuinely start taking it in. So I would do this thing where every time I go work, I would take an hour and just read through the Bible, you know, just pick a random page and just read it, and it helped. Eventually it got to a point where he was done with making videos because the toll that it took on him, and he didn't want the teaching role. So it was like, I got a family, so I'm done making YouTube videos. So he came and knocked on my door, and he was like, yeah, Cordell, sorry to break it to you, but, you know, yeah, I'm done. You're not gonna have a job. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dang, he the only one I was editing for at the time. So he's like, I'm not gonna have a job. I was trying not to cry. And he was like, yeah, you're not gonna have a job no more. He was like, but, you know, even though, you know, I'm getting rid of that, I want you to continue in the faith. And he was like, yo, how about I baptize you? I'm like, bro, at that point, it felt like, I didn't want to, but it felt like, I love him to death. That's like a brother to me, you know what I'm saying? But at that time, it felt like he was like, not coercion, but he was like, nah, you gotta get baptized, da, 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 you know what I'm saying? But I don't think I was ready at that time. But I ended up getting baptized by him, you know what I'm saying? I knew I believed in Jesus Christ. So I was like, yeah, I believe, so let's get baptized. But I wasn't ready, you know, so after I got baptized, I did feel like, kind of like, I don't know. But after that, he gave me 2 weeks of pay, and then it was up for me to find a job. So during that instance, I'm trying to find a job. You know, it's hard for me to find a job. I'm looking and looking and looking. Nothing is accepting me. My friend that I met through him, his girl put me on a job at a club. And so I started working at this club called Camp in Houston. It's a huge club. And, you know, it really humbled me, you know, just because I was a busser, and it showed me like hard work, and it showed me like God is truly working, you know what I'm saying? But before that, my fault, let me go back. The instance before I didn't have a job and when I had a job, during that time it was hard. Like I couldn't pay rent, you know what I'm saying? I didn't have the funds to keep my lights on, so I would create tactics to try to like prolong my lights, you know what I'm saying? I would pray to God every day. My prayer life my prayer life was strong, but every day I would go to God. I'm like, God, what do I even do in this situation? Like I have nothing, you know what I'm saying? I can't get no job, you know, nothing. So what do I do? I was streaming at the time, so I was getting my money from that and DoorDash because I had a car. Well, I didn't have a car, but I was using my girl car. So once she left, I kind of went down a path of kind of the forgiveness path and learning to apologize and kind of take initiative to, you know, apologize and reach out to people. And that was that with her. And that was my issue ultimately, was with asking for help. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know how to ask for help at all. And that rubbed off on my relationship with God. I was scared to go asking for help. I was scared to reach out to him. You know, even when I would pray, like I would thank him and do all this, but it's like I'm not asking him for help. I'm not asking him to, you know, help me in anything. So there was instances where I was dead broke. You know, I didn't ask for help till the last minute, but God still came through. You know what I'm saying? Times where I'm like 2-3 months behind on rent. You know what I'm saying? I didn't ask for help until the last minute, but for some reason, God still came through. During that time zone, God was also teaching me how to give. I didn't have anything, but God continued to tell me, oh, give to this person, give to that person, you know, help this person out. I'm like, I don't have nothing. You want me to give to this person when I don't have? He's like, yes. So I continued to give, and then he continued to, you know, pour back into me. And I started to learn how to give. And then he started to teach me how to communicate and ask for help, which was still hard for me. And but I continued to try to ask him for help, you know, in certain instances. He kept putting me in situations where I had to ask for help. You know, I kept losing jobs. You know, they fired me at the club out of the blue for no reason. And I cried, and he was like, just keep going. So I kept pushing through all them instances of me being behind on rent, me struggling with the lights, and stuff like that. And I just kept pushing. So that God was really teaching me that during that moment, and it started from like losing my relationship at that time. And then fast forward, I'm still trying to find jobs. I started door dashing again, and then I had ended up working at this other club while applying at the airport. So I was working at the airport and working at the club at the same time. And I was doing good for the longest time. My faith is still strong, still going to God, but I still didn't fully commit yet. I still didn't fully commit yet. If I could remember correctly, during that, I had a faith-based friend group that I met through Don's Discord, which is like, his community or whatever. And, we would meet together on like FaceTime because they was all based in Texas. And we would talk and, talk about what we're going through and just catch up and stuff like that. They would hang out in Dallas because I was staying in Houston, so I would kind of be left out, and they would do their thing. And, I was kind of out of the loop. But while that was going on, I was talking to this one girl, and she was cool, but I knew I didn't want to be in a relationship with her. And then so we started talking, and I wasn't fast to kind of like sleep with her, but eventually it happened, and that just became what it was. We just started sleeping with each other all the time, and I started to feel like, I don't know, eerie about it a little bit. At the time, when Don was going through, what he was going through, in his beliefs and changing beliefs or whatever, we got into like the whole tassels or whatever. So he had gave me his tassels, and I had put them on, and then I remember getting ready to do something with the girl, and I'm like, I looked at the tassel, I'm like, I can't do this, man. So she's like, what you talking about? I'm like, I just can't, I just can't. I just can't. And so that was like the beginning of me kind of not want to continue to, have sex outside of marriage. And eventually, we did it some more in the future, and then it got to a point where like I was done. I think God just kind of just took that desire away from me. One day she pulled up to my crib, and, we was talking or whatever, and then she tried to, have sex with me or whatever. Like, she's on me, and I'm kind of just like, just avoiding it. She's trying to kiss me, and I'm like, and, she's laying on me, whatever, trying to like, do that. And I'm like, nah, I just can't. I didn't say that while I was in my house. I can't do this, man. So eventually, she got up. She's like, I gotta go. And I'm like, all right. And I walk her to her car, and I'm like, she was like, you was acting weird. And I was like, nah, you was acting weird. And she was like, nah. And she just laughed, and she was like, all right, I'll see you later. And then she left. I never seen her again. But at that moment, I knew that God saved me from having sex out of marriage, because I avoided, having sex that instance. That was like the last time I was like, there's no more. And that was like 3 years ago. So ever since then, I haven't done anything, or 2 to 3 years ago, I think. I haven't done anything. So from there, I feel like God saved me from those struggles, sexually. Fast forward a little bit, I come across this girl that I met in the group chat, the faith-based group chat, and I start talking to her, and she's like, we're starting to hit it off or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm really interested in you. And she's like, well, you can't get to know me until we start courting. I'm like, dang, what's that? I don't even know what courting is. So she's like, yeah, courting is this, that, and the third. And I'm like, okay, I'm willing to do that, because I'm serious about this situation. So while I'm doing that, it's like, I'm starting to, just trying to learn more about God. Around this instance, I'm in my Bible more, God is kind of speaking to me more clearly. You know, I know what's right and what's wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty informed about certain things. But, you know, I still struggle in certain instances. But, yeah, I'm still working at the club or whatever. So I'm with her, not with her, but I'm talking to her. And an instance happened at the club while I witnessed somebody pass away. He had got shot. And I'm like, the club, it didn't stop. It didn't stop going. It just kept going. The only one on the block, mind you, the little investigative people came down, put the tape and everything, and we're the only spot open. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, bro, we just saw here and witnessed a guy die. You know what I'm saying? Y'all just still want to go? So at that point in time, I was like, I'm quitting this spot. You know what I'm saying? I don't think God wanted me to be in this, you know, working in this environment anyways, you know, with all people drinking and things like that. So, you know, God told me to leave. I'm like, you sure? He's like, yes. You know, I didn't have I was barely making rent, but he was like, leave that job. So I left, and now I'm just working at the airport, and me and the girl started to get closer, and I'm like, you know what? I think I want to start courting you. So an instance happened where I like surprised her. I drove out to Dallas or Fort Worth from Houston, and you know, I surprised her and I was like, yeah, you know, I think I want to start making this courting process kind of serious now. And I talked to her dad or whatever, and we kind of made it, you know, it started. And then she started to say like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then we started to talk about like sacrifice and how there's just a certain level of sacrifice that needs to go on within a relationship. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm reading the Bible. Jesus sacrificed a lot. So, you know, I'm gonna sacrifice a lot for this relationship, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm serious about this. Mind you, I never dove this deep into a relationship before. Like, I never been this serious in a relationship before. So this is new to me. So I'm driving back and forth from Houston to Fort Worth to see this girl, and, you know what I'm saying, just spend time with her, and while also trying to, you know, she hit me with like, yeah, I don't think I want to do long distance relationships. So I'm like, dang, so you want me to move to Fort Worth? She was like, yeah, I think that'll be good. So I'm thinking about it. I'm like, that might not be a bad move if I truly plan on marrying this girl. So I was like, okay, I'll move to Fort Worth. And, you know, her parents said they'll help me out, you know what I'm saying, because they knew my intentions. And they was like, just move out here, we'll help you. She can't move in with you yet, but we're gonna move as if she will in the future when y'all get married, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I moved as such, and you know, eventually I moved from Houston to Fort Worth, left everything, my friends, mind you, I had friends in Houston, I had, you know, I worked at the airport in Houston. I'm like, should I do this? But I did it anyway. So I moved out there, and, you know, our relationship is good. You know what I'm saying? We're in marriage counsel. You know what I'm saying? I'm learning a lot, you know, in terms of the faith and like how to move as a husband, you know what I'm saying? How to move as a man, sacrificing a lot. I'm tired though, constantly. You know, there was instances where we prayed together and, you know, asking God for confirmations. And, you know, God gave those confirmations. Like, I didn't have no jobs coming out to Fort Worth, but, you know, God provided. You know, I came to Fort Worth, I had 3 jobs, you know what I'm saying? I was working 3 jobs at the same time. I was working at Costco, the airport, and Walmart, you know what I'm saying? And eventually I was like, you know, I don't want to work at the airport for some reasons, and I don't want to work at Walmart. I just didn't like Walmart, so I just worked at Costco. It's a great job. So I just got rid of that, and then, you know, the relationship is going good. We had our bumps and struggles. And one random day, you know what I'm saying, I'm working at Costco, and I'm texting her like, oh, how about we do a Bible study and go, you know, run at the track, because we used to run at the track. And she's like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, I don't want to do that, Cordell. I think this is getting out of hand, or like, I don't want to continue to be together. I'm like, what? Where is this coming from? So eventually she's like, you know, I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. I was upset, you know, so I drove to my friend's crib. I'm like, bro, what's she talking about? Like, this girl, what am I doing? And I sacrificed all this stuff for her just to say, like, I don't want to do this no more. And then he's like, it's okay, man, just talk to her, man. And he started to see I was idolizing her. You know what I'm saying? I was praying for her. You know what I'm saying? I was putting my relationship before God. But he was just giving me hints by just asking me, like, are you happy? Like, have you been working on this or have you been working on that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy, I'm good. But, I really wasn't. I was shaping myself for her. You know what I'm saying? I did a lot. I cut my hair for this girl. You know what I'm saying? I moved from Houston. You know what I'm saying? It's just other things. That's just like I was shaping myself into somebody that I wasn't. And she told me that. We ended up like agreeing to meet at this one spot. And I was like, your parents got to be involved. I was like, I need some type of like outside, outside perspective. Forgetting that her parents are her biggest supporters, you know what I'm saying? They're going to be biased. But the way they was involved, I just thought like, oh, they was going to play it correctly. So we're at the spot talking and they're just telling me like, they're like, Cordell, you just haven't been doing this. Why didn't the Holy Spirit tell you to, what she needed and this, that, and the third? Did you truly give your life to Jesus Christ? At that moment, I was like, I stuttered a little bit. And then I was like, oh, I stuttered. I don't know. So I was like, I don't know. And then I said, I will though. And then, so after that, I was upset because they're saying all these things. And it's like, literally 3 days ago, you was just telling me how I was doing so good. You know what I'm saying? Like, you was just praising me. You was just giving me my props. And, you know what I'm saying? Where's all this stuff coming from? And her mom was telling me that. Her mom was my biggest supporter. I looked to her dad. I didn't get nothing from him. So I'm like, dang. I was mad. And after that, we had to go to the marriage counseling people to like call it off and tell them that we had broke up. And after I told them that and voiced myself, I cried on that Zoom call. I haven't cried in ages. I cried because I'm like, I genuinely thought I was finna marry this girl. You know what I'm saying? I genuinely thought I was putting in my best efforts. You know what I'm saying? I genuinely thought we was headed, somewhere. I cried. It made me question my faith only because I looked at her parents as if like they were like, they were like a perfect household, you know what I'm saying? Faith-based household, you know what I'm saying? Prayed all the time, Bible studies all the time. I was involved. They taught us a lot. I loved them to death. They taught us a lot on how to move as a family and like, you know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't just me and her, it was a whole friend group that went to their crib, and we was involved in like a whole like group. So it wasn't just me and her, it was me, her, my closest friend, him, and then her friends. We would all just go there and they was like mentors in a way. So like we looked to them like, oh, they know, you know what I'm saying? They've experienced, they have a successful a successful marriage built off of faith. So it's like, oh, they know what they're talking about to an extent. The guy, the marriage counseling guy, afterwards said that I could still kind of go to him, because he understands how I felt. So I would still go to him and he would help me, stay on track with God, instead of veering off, because a situation like that could throw you off track like crazy. So he kind of helped me. And, during those instances, I was in a deep depression and I would go to God and I'm like, God, did I truly give my life to you? Literally, I'm just standing in the shower and I'm like asking God for forgiveness for everything I've done. Just the woman that I had sex with or the woman that I lusted after or, the people that I lied to, the people that I stole from, harming myself. I just asked for forgiveness in all those aspects. And, you know what I'm saying? I feel like he forgave me. No, I know he forgave me. But I was still kind of like, dang, I just lost my relationship. So after me and her broke up, I lost my car. After I lost my car, I was about to lose my apartment, you know what I'm saying? So I had nothing, you know what I'm saying? I had nothing. So during that moment of having nothing, or no, after the relationship, I was like, the only person I do have is God. So I just kept going to God. I kept, praying to him, worshiping him, crying to him, asking him for forgiveness, asking him to, help me in situations where I need help. Like, he was the only one that I went to. And God continued to help me in that situation. And then he brought me from being completely sad in that relationship to, bro, as soon as I was out of that sadness, I realized how sad I was. You know what I'm saying? I realized where I was. So when he brought me out of that and I was like refreshed, I was like, oh, God loves me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he saved me from that. And on top of everything else that he saved me from in my past, I'm like, oh, there's like, God is here for me. I'm rooted, you know what I'm saying, in Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? There's no doubt about it. He's been there my whole life, saving me through everything. No doubt about it. Because it's like, once he has his hands on you, he's not going to let you go. You know what I'm saying? And I knew that. So I'm like, okay, if God's saving me through these things, it's clear that he has his hands on me. If God's put me certain things, it's clear, it's obvious. You know what I'm saying? My faith isn't depicted on the level. Like, there's not levels to this. Like, and I had to understand that there's no levels to this. Like, it's a marathon. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's not going to be at the same level that somebody else wants you to be at. And I had to realize that. So once I started to realize that, I'm like, oh, I'm good. For as long as I'm keeping my head towards him and I'm continuing to move forward in his will, and once I gave my life to him and I said his will be done, I was like, oh, I'm good. Like, I got nothing to worry about. My faith was already strong because it got built through the trials that I've been through in my, with almost losing my other apartment, losing my cars, losing my jobs. Like, that was building my faith. You know what I'm saying? How was you know what I'm saying? I can't doubt that God wasn't working in my life when he brought me through so much before. You know what I'm saying? So I knew the faith that I had. It's because I was going to him. He was the only one that I was going to him. If I didn't have faith in God, why am I going to him? You know what I'm saying? If I didn't have no faith in him, or if my faith wasn't, grounded, like, then anything that I went through in the past is null. Like, it just don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I started to realize, like, oh, Jesus is in my life. You know what I'm saying? Jesus know I love him. You know what I'm saying? And once I realized that, I started to show him. You know what I'm saying? I started to correct myself. I started to repent for certain things that I did. You know what I'm saying? I'm not staying stagnant. I never tried to stay in one place or stay in a sin or stay in anything. You know, I know he's seen, the changes that I've made, the sacrifices that I've made, to want to make him happy. You know what I'm saying? So I just started to think about all that stuff. And then hearing from the counselor, he's like, bro, you shouldn't. He was reassuring me during those instances. So that was when I truly understand, like, oh, my faith is good. You know what I'm saying? It still hurt when I was losing everything. I was still lost and confused and didn't know where to go. I was planning on moving back in with my mom because I just, I ain't had no spot. But, I continued to, like, oh, God, I'm going to put you first. You know what I'm saying? While I have this apartment that I'm living in, I'm going to use it for you. So I started hosting Bible studies in that apartment. You know what I'm saying? Trying to build something surrounded by God, understanding that I need to open the door for him to help me through certain things. So I just told God, help me during this. Dang, God, I'm looking for a job. Help me find another job. Boom, he helped me. You know what I'm saying? In ways that I just didn't think he would help me in. You know what I'm saying? And, it may not be to the speed I wanted, but it still happened. Help me heal from my, past issues involving, like, being, taken advantage of, healed from that. You know what I'm saying? And, he just was there. I can't deny it at this point in time. You know what I'm saying? And so that was that instance. And from there on out, I just continued rooting myself into God. And that was just based off of faith alone. But up until recently, I had a personal one-on-one experience with God that I just never experienced physically, You know, there was an instance where God used me to talk to someone else, you know what I'm saying, that physically, you know, I never had experience like this before. Like there was times where I had the experience of the Holy Spirit, you know, taking control of me, and like, you know, I feel that fire in me, and I'm like, I want to keep going. But this instance, God physically came into the room, surrounded the room, you know, in fog, not the room, but the outside in fog, you know what I'm saying, spoke to me through me, you know what I'm saying, spoke to somebody else through me, had no control, you know what I'm saying, crying uncontrollably, shaking. Like, that was the closest I've ever felt to God. And he came down to this earth for measly old me, you know what I'm saying, just to say, you know, I love you, it's okay, and I'm proud of you, you know, keep going, you know, don't worry about what people got to say, don't worry about like what don't worry about like what the culture, you know what I'm saying, portrays, or like how they say you should do this or how they say you should do that. You know, don't worry about what I say, you know what I'm saying, worry about what I got to say and how I say your life should be. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about, you know, not having you're good financially. I take control of that. You know what I'm saying? Why would God put you to something and not bring you to somewhere better? Why would God remove somebody and not give you somebody better? You know what I'm saying? Why would God just allow you to suffer and you not learn from that suffering? You know what I'm saying? So I started to understand that later on, and I just started to truly understand after the instance where me and the girl broke up and she's saying I didn't truly know who Jesus Christ was. I was like, bet. So if I don't know who Jesus Christ is, where do I go learn about Jesus Christ? The Gospels. So during that instance, I sat there and I read through all the Gospels, and after the Gospels, I just kept reading the Bible, and then that was when I completely started to understand the Bible. You know what I'm saying? That was when God truly started to, like, it's like he opened my eyes and it started to look clear. I'm starting to read through books and books. I didn't have nothing else better to do but before I lost my car, but to DoorDash and listen to the Bible. I didn't have nothing else. I lost my girl. I didn't have nothing else better to do but to, you know what I'm saying, read or listen to the Bible or go to sleep reading it. Or I was consuming it day and night to the point where, you know, I was like, oh, I understand now. Like, I'm good. You know, this isn't no race. You know what I'm saying? That's what it felt like with being in that relationship with that girl. It felt like a race. It felt like I had to be where she wanted me to be at that time, which I wasn't. You know, I'm where God wanted me to be at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, he taught me a lesson through that. You know, he taught me sacrifice and, you know, caring and, you know, other other things that a man should know while trying to pursue a woman, you know, with intentions. And, you know, and I appreciate that. But he also taught me that, you know, he's the one that I should look toward or look to, you know what I'm saying? He's the one that I should take advice from. He's the one that I should, you know, allow to touch my life, you know, because he's in control of all of it. So at that point in time, I was like, oh, I already been through the storm with everything I went through in high school, you know, moving out on my own and not being able to, you know, support myself sometimes. Now it's just learning to trust God and learning to talk to him and learning to welcome him into the room in all aspects of my life. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of where I'm at with that. And he's continuing to teach me that day in and day out, you know what I'm saying? Day in and day out, you know, and I truly appreciate God, truly love God. Nobody in this world can take away my faith from God because I've seen it. You know, I had a personal connection with him, you know what I'm saying? And I know what he's done in my life and I know what he's brought me through, even like towards the minuscule things, like, you know, just seeing a homeless guy on the end and giving him something and him thanking you, you know. And there's instances where I just didn't even touch on what I want to touch on, like angels, you know. I met a guy named Success and I felt like he was an angel and I never, like, it's just crazy, you know what I'm saying? He just, throughout this whole time, he's just confirming that I'm here. That's what God's been doing throughout this whole time. Through whatever I went through, you know what I'm saying? Through me sinning against him, through me, you know what I'm saying, ruining, you know, I feel like I could have ruined women's lives by just sleeping with them. And, you know what I'm saying, through my non-communication skills that I had, that he taught me through being in a relationship, through, you know, traumas that I had, through seeing people die, you know, seeing people get shot, through freaking working these jobs, you know what I'm saying, working through seeing the grind. You know, he taught me compassion. He taught me like everybody has a struggle, you know, through just seeing certain people work in bad situations. Like God was just, he never left my side through me being a little kid. And he just showed me, like, through whatever you're going through, or through like whatever you're dealing with, you know, no matter, as long as you believe, it's fine. It don't matter how small that belief, you know, that belief is. He got you. Once he has his hands on you, he will never let you go. He never let me go. He never let me fall into he never let me fall into anything. Like, I could have been strung out on the street somewhere because I wanted to get into drugs. I could have been in somebody's prison. I could have been dead. You know what I'm saying? I could have had 10 babies flying around here or something like that. But he just never let me go because he had a purpose in my life. And, you know, that's what I had to understand, was that I have a purpose. And I think he's been truly kind of, you know, developing that purpose in me. So I truly thank him, and I truly appreciate him. And it's just been a long time, even up until recently, with me meeting my dad for the first time in my whole life. Never did I think I would meet him. But learning to forgive him, even though he wasn't here for 23 freaking years of my whole life, learning to forgive him, learning to accept him for who he is now, learning to just, you know, try to build a relationship with the father that I never had my whole life. Even through that instances, you know, it's so hard, but I know God got a plan, and I know he would want me to. And, you know, after like that situation where her family had me questioning my faith, I stopped. I'm like, what am I questioning my faith for? You know, I had faith this whole time. You know, just because I don't know as much as you know, that don't mean my faith is gone. You know, that don't mean I don't believe in Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Just because I'm not no biblical scholar, you know what I'm saying? That don't mean I don't believe in Jesus Christ and what he has done in my life. And I learned that through just who I worked for too. Like, you know, of course it's good to know, and knowledge is good, but it's that experience, you know, that one-on-one personal experience. And I feel like, I don't know, that's what I truly had to, you know, come to recognize, and just having compassion. And Yeah, I would say to endure, you know, just keep going, you know, keep moving forward. Don't let the small L's, you know, just keep you down. Because at the end of the day, God got a bigger purpose for you, you know, and through your struggles, you know, you might can help somebody else, you know, overcome it through the experience. You know, it's hard to connect with people when you just haven't never experienced whatever you experience. So, you know, just understand that you could help somebody else through your experience. Just keep going, you know, keep pushing forward, keep putting that one foot in front of the other. And yeah, God got you. Don't be afraid to fall, because every time you fall, God gonna catch you in his hands. So as long as you believe in him, you know, believe he will, because he will, you know, and he says he will. So Jesus is my Father, my best friend, my protector, my savior, my comfort. You know, Jesus is my everything, and I feel like he's my everything, and that's the best I can put it. You know, he's there through me, through every storm, you know, through every struggle, through every trial. I know he's going to be there, and I know I can, you know, just lay in his arms and just know I'm safe. He's my safe haven. Lord, I pray that this message reach any and everybody that needs it. I pray that they're protected. I pray that they know that you love them, Lord, I pray that they know that you're there for them and that you'll never leave their side, Lord. I pray that they come to find Jesus Christ through this message or through whatever means that you will for them. I pray that you continue to be their light, or I pray that you put a light in front of them, or I pray that this message is their light, God, that slowly but surely guides them closer to you, Lord. I pray that you continue to show them the path and show them, their purpose in life, Lord, because, that's what we're here for. I pray that I'm able to help whoever and they're able to help whoever. And I pray that they're selfless and, they're able to be there for the people that need it. And, we thank you, Lord, and we praise you. We lift your name up high through everything, every trial and every tribulation that we go through. I pray you give them the confidence to continue to walk. I pray you give them the endurance, the strength, and the knowledge and the wisdom in order to move through every situation as safely as possible, Lord. And I pray that every time they get knocked down, they get back up. And I pray that you pick them up, Lord, in the name of Jesus. And I pray that you continue to be there throughout their whole life journey, Lord. In Jesus' name, I pray, amen.